What's it like being a superhero?
Start with the easy question.
Gee. It's no different than any other role I've played, other than, you get to do things like this. But it's really, I'm an actor and it's a job. Sorry, but that's about it.
Did you have any familiarity with the Firestorm character before taking on the role?
No. I'll be very honest with you. I'm not a nerd and I'm not a comic fan, and I didn't read comics and I don't really know anything about them. And this came about in a kind of one of those fortuitous ways that Greg Berlanti, who is sort of the guru of all these shows, the Arrow and Legends of Tomorrow and Flash and Supergirl. I worked with him years ago on another show, Eli Stone, with Johnny Lee Miller. He's from this part of the world, and that was a really wonderful experience. And so when he approached me about doing this role, it was for a short term to do a few episodes of The Flash, and I thought, well, this I've never done anything like this, and I loved The Flash, and I had friends on it, and Tom Cavanaugh and Jesse Martin, and so I thought, well, this will be fun, and so I did it, and then out of that came Legends of Tomorrow, and by the time Legends came up, I had already done several episodes of The Flash. I thought, well, at my age, to be offered a superhero role, back to your question, what a great and odd thing in my life, or my final act, as they say, and so that's I thought, I'm going to do this, and very glad I did, and I'm having a wonderful time, and I think the show is really fun, and although I have no idea what's going on, but I'm enjoying it very much.
You're back on The Flash this season for a crossover musical episode.
Yes.
Supergirl, which of course that is one of your fortes, music, isn't it?
Well, thank you. Yes, I used to be mostly in the music, and now I hardly sing at all. So I'm always terrified when I have to sing, and the idea that I was singing with Jesse Martin and John Barrowman, a trio of one of my favorite songs from Guys and Dolls, was so daunting, and I went into a complete depression, and then hired a vocal coach in Vancouver, where I was shooting, and got myself, just worked so hard, and then I finally was okay, and I thought it actually turned out really well, and I'm proud of it.
What was it like, kind of then? Did you find going back once you were doing it, after you'd had the preparation for it? How did you find it, being there in the room doing it?
Singing it?
Yeah.
Once I got into the studio, and Blake Neely, who writes all the music for these shows, and who I'd worked with on Eli Stone, I literally I called him, and he calmed me down, and he was always the person on Eli Stone, because I had to sing. I sang with George Michael on that show. God rest his soul. So I it's sort of the thing where I've done this, so I should be able to do this again, and I just needed someone to kind of boost my confidence, and that's what Blake Neely did, and it was great. It was great. I'm not going to sing today. Not that you asked.
If you could pick it.
Sorry?
I was going to say, do you ever feel slightly terrified, because obviously there's always a change on the ship in Legends, they come and go, like Snart's gone, Rory went for a bit. Do you think, when will I go, when will Firestorm go? Do you think you're safe because it's two of you?
No, no one is safe on these shows, and I don't really think about that. I mean, there'll be a time when it's time to go, and I'll be going. So, no, it's sort of my goal is to enjoy the day I'm in, and I am. So I don't really think about that.
So other people sometimes obviously act into like drama school, it's like being that kid again sort of thing. To you, to me, you're always Sidney Bristow's father. No matter what you do, you're that. So,
bless your heart. That's what Jennifer Garner says.
Yeah. So when you're on this set these days, to you, is it still like playing that game when you were that young child, or do you feel like you're sort of passing down to these younger people on set as well?
I always feel I'm slightly intimidated by some of these young actors because they're so much smarter than I am and so good. Really, I mean, they're really so brilliant. I mean, Franz Drama, who plays my other half, is from East London, or I think, or South London. I know there's a difference, and I'm sorry, but I can't. I'm not sure where exactly. But he is so. He's such an instinctively brilliant young actor, and he can do anything. He's like hilariously funny and can break your heart. And I learned so much from acting with him. And everybody has their own. The nice thing about Legends is that it's such a disparate group, and that's like the show. I think that's why this show is successful, because it's unlike any other of the shows, because they're all these people in the same world trying to make something happen. And that's, for me, what's interesting about the show. Because the superhero part of it is, for me, the least interesting. Because it's really about the dynamics between why, how do you actually make this work as a group. So I love everybody on the show. I think is really gifted and talented. And they sort of look at me as the old guy, because I am. And I think there's a certain. But once they get to know me, they realize I'm just a fool like they are. So it's a really nice group to work with.
A lot of fun and games.
Yeah, there's a lot of laughs. You have to, because the hours are so hideous. You have to really be able to have a good time.
In terms of those laughs, are there any particular stories that always bring a smile to your face when you think about them now, in terms of things you guys have got up to on set, or practical jokes?
It's really never about practical jokes so much, and I'm really bad with sort of remembering specifics, except it's mostly about just foolish things that happen in a dialogue where you're trying to make something that really shouldn't work and doesn't work. You know what I mean? It's like a dialogue, a scene where, bless you, a scene where you're just like I'll often Arthur Darville, who you know from his great work in this country. He's sort of I go to him and I say, Arthur, what's happening right now? What is this? What year are we in? And have we met this? Have we done this before? Because I get so lost in the time jumps. Mm-hmm. And Arthur is really brilliant. He's like he's this and that and that, and there's a lot of laughter about that, because I'll just say a line and they all know I don't know what I'm saying, and so they find that amusing. But it's mostly and also depending on the director. Sometimes some directors make it less fun than other directors. So I'm not going to say any names, but we have our favorites, and we all and we also feel like we're all in this together, because it's a tricky thing to do. None of us live in Vancouver where we're shooting, which is an odd thing. We're all just from another. We all live in. I live in New York, and most of the other actors live in Los Angeles or London, as Arthur and Franz. So nobody is home, which is a weird thing to do for a long period of time.
This season we saw a shift in the captain. Speaking of Arthur,
yes.
He kind of left the show to. He's obviously back now, and we saw. How was the dynamic change with Katie being the captain of the ship?
It was interesting because we missed Arthur, because he was our rock, and then Katie just stepped up and was so. She's really amazed me, her growth as an actor over the times over the 3 years or 2 years now that I've worked with her. I think she's just so talented and surprising, and I think she just took to it beautifully, and frankly, I think people accepted it. I'm assuming because it seemed to work, and now we have Arthur back, and that's been glorious too. So it all worked out, because when people are asked to do things that they don't normally do, it's nice when they can.
What were you looking forward to about going back into the next season, and what would you like to see happen with your character or characters as you?
Well, I'm honestly curious because I think the last episode we looked at the spaceship. It's not the spaceship, the time ship. That's what it's called. I think. I always get it wrong. And there were dinosaurs out there. So I have no idea what's happening. You know, I'm dreading night shoots with funny creatures. I'm dreading, but you know But I really don't know what they're going to do. For me, it's really always the same. It's always about, you know, how does this character, the struggles he encounters. You know, I'm always curious about his relationship with his wife and because I sometimes think they forget that I'm married. and I sometimes say in the middle of a scene, "Where's Clarissa? You know, where is she?" And they joke, but they did actually. They kind of wrapped that up a little bit better, I think, at the end of the season. But so I'm curious about his, you know, what he does now. Like where does he fit in with this group? Because it's you know, they have trouble because they can't really send me out on, you know, battle things because I'm too frail. And so I loved the daughter relationship. That was really, because that's interesting to me, you know, and and she's so good, that girl. She's just so talented, and so I'm hoping there's more of that.
I guess it was touched on rather briefly there about Alias, but can you tell us a bit about your experiences in filming that? Because it was such an iconic show of its time.
Well, thank you. It was unparalleled, really, for me as an actor. You know, it was really my first TV show. I was a New York actor in the theater, and J.J. Abrams somehow saw me as this character, Jack Bristow, and I still don't know how, but he did, and I was so grateful that he did, and it was, you know, we're all still in touch. Jennifer and I remain extremely close, and her children are. You know, I'm godfather to her middle daughter, Serafina. So and JJ just was one of the producers of a show on Broadway, and so we're still in touch. And Ron Rifkin and Michael Vartan is shooting a show in Vancouver and living in my building. So there I live in Vancouver. So we still are very tight.
It was one of those shows that kind of kept you guessing until the very end. Did you kind of know where it was going when you started off with it? Or
no.
Did it surprise you?
Yes, yes. I thought that the show kind of, the first 2 seasons were extraordinary. Then it kind of dipped, and I didn't know quite where it was going. And then I think the last season really it all just came together in a beautiful way. And yeah, I'm very, very proud of it. And when I look at pictures of it or people talk about it, I always feel nostalgic and very proud.
As an actor with such an extensive portfolio of work over the years, from musical theatre to film to television, what role do you get the most satisfaction out of looking back?
You know, it's interesting because when I talk about any role I've done, there are elements of that in every role I've done, because you know I give 100%. And so it results in this where I am now. So every role I've done has had an effect. Obviously, some more than others, but I mean, Alias because it was the longest stretch, but Titanic, I'm recognized more for that than most of the things I've done. And I just had dinner with David Warner last night, who I haven't seen in 15 years, and who I love, and who is, I think, one of the great, you know, I think he's sort of, I'm sure you know who he is, but I think he's one of the great actors in this country. And I just feel everything I've done has been important and valuable to me. And so it's really hard to pick one thing. But obviously Alias changed my life, literally, because I went from theater to, you know, television, and Titanic was one of those things that just you know, it's become one of the most iconic films of all time, and I just, how I got in that, it's a miracle, really.
How was it working with?
I'm sorry, we don't have any more time for any more questions.
Gee, I'm enjoying this.
Sorry. Sorry.
Well, thank you very much.
Sorry.